you very much. Doctor, in your opinion, what were the main internal and external factors of the downfall of the Afghan government?
Okay, internally, I think the problem was the institutions were not built in the way that it will help the establishment of democracy and sustain democracy and the rule of law for many different reasons that we can discuss later. Externally, Afghanistan institutions and the army, police were so much dependent on outside help. When the outside help actually ended or stopped, that the sustainability of the police and the army became a question, and finally, with the withdrawal of contractors, the maintenance of the Afghanistan institutions and army and police became a problem, and finally, I think the Doha process. In the Doha process, the Taliban actually failed to fulfill what they had made the commitment and to make good on their promises. In the international community was hasty to leave the country, and that actually caused the vacuum, and the Afghanistan government actually became in a position that Taliban took over militarily.
Okay, thank you very much. Considering the current situation, what do you think? What will be the future of the achievements and democratic institutions in Afghanistan that have been established in the last 20 years?
Unfortunately, despite the fact that in Doha and the peace process, the insistence was that the achievement of the past 20 years should be preserved. But the Taliban came to power. They think now that they have won the war militarily, and they do not have any obligations to maintain or preserve the achievement of the past. They will do things the way they want to do it, and therefore, I think currently the achievements are not preserved, and we don't know in the future. Maybe if the situation changes, some new kind of institutions in Afghanistan probably will emerge, hopefully to some extent the way that the people want them to be.
Thank you. Do you think there is a hope for a future, the creation of an inclusive government and interaction of the Taliban with the international community?
One should always have a hope, and the hope is there. But looking at the situation inside the country and the position of the neighbors in other countries, I think the Taliban are not going to change in the near future.
Thank you. So keeping in mind the answer, so what is your opinion? What is the way out of the current crisis in Afghanistan?
Well, now the crisis is depending on the people of Afghanistan first. They have to challenge the Taliban, not militarily, but through political process, and the international community to support that process. I think the Doha peace process actually was disrupted by the Taliban, who took, although they promised that they would not take over Afghanistan by force, but they did. And the negotiation between the Taliban and now the defunct government stopped. I think you have to renew that process of negotiation with the Taliban and to find a kind of a solution that will lead to the establishment of broad-based government and inclusive government in the country. And the international community should support any political process that will support that kind of development.
Thank you. Coming back to the international community, what is the strategy of the world and especially the United States of America toward Afghanistan and the Taliban group? Will Afghanistan once again be forgotten like in 90s it was?
Well, the situation that you have to look at the context. The context of today is not the context of 2001. It is a different context. the United States have three basic, concerns or four. First of all, to minimize the suffering of the people of Afghanistan in a way not to help the Taliban government consolidate their power. Second, the containment of terrorism inside Afghanistan so that terrorism will not threaten the interest of the United States and its allies in the region and beyond. And third is the Taliban respect of human rights, particularly the women's rights, which is a long-standing United States policy concern. And at the same time, the United States wants free movement of people, inclusive of all ethnic groups in the government, and let the people who want to leave the country to leave the country. These are the interests that the United States always discuss it with the Taliban in order to engage them in a positive way. However, the United States does not want to isolate the Taliban in a way that the U.S. interest will be undermined or suffer. So this is what. However, you ask about the forgotten. I think it is all depend now on the people of Afghanistan what they do. I don't think foreign countries will militarily intervene in Afghanistan. But they will continue to engage Taliban as a positive way to try to change them, to moderate their policies. And this is something that we don't know how long this will take, but this is something the countries are willing to find a way to moderate the policies of Taliban through engaging them.
Thank you very much. As a last question, I will ask the question that when Afghan government was about to collapse, there were lots of news that you will become the president of the transition government and you will take the power and you will make an inclusive government. So how did you find that news and what was your reaction?
There was a rumor, as I said, that refuted that was actually reported by writers. And I also called writers and I to refute this. I was not in consideration. In the past, many months before, there were talks about the interim government there. Maybe people were thinking about that. On the other hand, there were some rumors or some speculations that certain circles wanted to mention my name and use my political capital in order to give some kind of assurance to people when the Taliban were just taking over Kabul.
Okay. Thank you very much. And if you want to give like any final words to the audience, okay. So then we wrap up. And
I thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to talk to you here and also before that. And I hope that I have not confused you more than you were confused before I talked.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you very much.